International students currently pursuing degrees in the United States will have to leave the country or risk deportation if their current universities transition to online courses only. This announcement was made by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement on Monday. The move may affect thousands of foreign students who visit the United States to attend universities or to participate in training programs as well as non-academic or vocational studies. Many universities have already begun making decisions to transition to online courses because of the pandemic. At Harvard University, all course instruction will be delivered online, including for students living on campus. For international students, this opens the door to them having to leave the United States. In a release posted to its website, ICE stated that international students on non-immigrant F1 and M1 visas who are attending schools that are operating entirely online may not take a full online course load and remain in the United States. They have also stated that the U.S. Department of State will not issue visas to students who are enrolled in schools and/or programs that are fully online for the fall semester, nor will the U.S. Customs and Border Protection permit these students to enter the United States. It has been suggested that students currently enrolled in the United States should consider other measures, such as transferring to schools with in-person or face-to-face instruction. Active students currently in the United States enrolled in such programs must depart the country or take other measures, such as transferring to a school with a face-to-face instruction program to remain in lawful status. If not, they may encounter immigration consequences, including but not limited to the initiation of removal proceedings. Colleges and universities have pushed back against the Trump administration's decision to make international students leave the U.S. if they plan on taking classes online. The Harvard University and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology have filed a lawsuit to try to block this decision, and other schools have promised to work with students to keep them on campus. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has notified colleges that international students will be forced to leave the U.S. or forced to transfer to another college if their schools operate online alone this fall. They have stated that new visas will not be issued to students who are at schools that operate solely online, and others at universities offering a mix of online and face-to-face classes will be barred from taking all of their classes online. Another guidance states that international students will not be exempt if an outbreak forces their schools to practice only online courses for the fall term. In a statement, the U.S. State Department mentioned that international students are welcome in the U.S., but the policy provides greater flexibility for non-immigrant students to continue their education in the United States while also allowing for proper social distancing on open and operating campuses across the United States. The guidance was released on the same day that Harvard announced that it would be keeping its classes online this fall. The Harvard University have stated that the directive would prevent many of its 5,000 international students from remaining in the U.S. The president of Harvard has stated that this order came without notice and that its cruelty and was surpassed only by its recklessness. It appears that it was designed purposefully to place pressure on colleges and universities to open their on-campus classrooms for face-to-face instruction this fall, without regards to the concerns for the health and safety of students, instructors, and others. This comes at a time when the U.S. has been setting daily records for the number of new infections, which are at more than 300,000 new cases that have been reported since July 1. Universities across the U.S. have stated that the more than 1 million international students have an important place in their communities. Many schools have also come to depend on revenue from international students, who typically pay higher tuition rates. It has been stated that this move creates an urgent dilemma for thousands of international students who became stranded in the U.S. last spring after the pandemic forced their schools to move online. Those students who are attending schools that are staying online must leave the country or take other measures, such as transferring to a school with a face-to-face instruction program. They may have just re-signed leases on apartments, or university starts in 6 weeks or 7 weeks. They have been planning to be here. They have already spent money, so it's really devastating. The university last week reversed course on a plan to bring students to campus, saying that classes will be hosted primarily or exclusively online. Many persons are worried that even students who start off on campus will be prevented by travel restrictions from going home if a surge forces classes online mid-semester. The question has been asked, what if a student like that, who for no fault of their own, finds themselves here without their classes and ends up in a detention center or deported? The lawsuit that is filed in Boston's federal court seeks to prevent federal immigration authorities from enforcing the rule. The universities contend that the directive violates the Administrative Procedures Act because officials failed to offer a reasonable basis to justify the policy and because the public was not given sufficient notice to comment on the decision. The White House press secretary on Wednesday sidestepped a decision about whether it was designed to pressure colleges to reopen their campuses, saying that the policy speaks for itself. It was also mentioned that you don't get a visa for taking online classes. Let's say the University of Phoenix, so why would you if you were just taking online courses generally? The president of the New York University has promised to work with international students to keep them in the U.S., calling the rule needlessly rigid. If there were a moment for flexibility in delivering education, this would be it. Both on our own and in association with other universities, NYU will be reaching out to federal officials, urging them to revoke or modify this rule. An online petition in favor of letting international students stay if classes were online had drawn more than 220,000 signatures by Wednesday. Hundreds of Jamaican students who are currently pursuing tertiary studies in the United States could find themselves at risk of being deported if their universities transition to online-only courses. It was revealed that it may affect thousands of foreign students. The U.S. mainstream media have quoted ICE as saying that students who fall under certain visa categories may not take a full online course load and remain in the U.S. The report further added that the State Department will not be issuing visas to students who are enrolled in schools that have transitioned to online classes fully. Jamaica American Immigration Attorney Dale Walker Huntington has stated that the measures will impact some students' studies. Some colleges and universities have not yet even figured out what they are going to do for the fall as yet. Some will have to leave based on their schedules, and others will not be granted visas to study. According to her, if they don't leave or enroll in another program, the government will begin removal proceedings against them. The Washington-based Student and Exchange Visitor Program announced modifications to temporary exemptions or non-immigrant students taking online classes owing to the pandemic for the fall 2020 semester. As a result of the pandemic, SEVP instituted a temporary exemption regarding online courses for the spring and summer semesters. The policy has permitted non-immigrant students to take more online courses than normally permitted by federal regulation to maintain their non-immigrant status during the pandemic emergency. ISO suggested that students currently enrolled in the U.S. consider other measures, like transferring to schools with face-to-face instruction programs. There is an exception for universities using a hybrid model, such as a mix of online and in-person classes. Visa requirements for students have always been extremely strict, and coming to the United States to take online-only courses has always been prohibited. However, these universities are legitimate and well-structured facilities. They offer legitimate courses, and they would normally have face-to-face classes. However, as a result of the pandemic, they have had to make changes. The bigger issue is that some of these countries have travel restrictions on them, and they cannot go home. So what are the students supposed to do? It's a conundrum for a lot of students. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think about these new rules that are being enforced by